unicorn, a fintech unicorn out of Asia, on a very rapid growth trajectory. Back in 2021, Nium acquired a very well-known virtual credit card issuer with a long-standing history in the travel industry, a company called Exaris, and we've now migrated that company to become Nium Travel. And I'm responsible for the growth of our business globally and essentially looking to support the travel population, the travel industry, in riding the very exciting current return to travel. I was born into the travel industry. My father worked for the precursor to British Airways. He worked for BEA, British European Airlines, and BOAC. And when those two organizations came together, he actually spent a considerable amount of time, and I grew up in the Middle East. We were based in Bahrain when Concorde came through. We were based in Saudi Arabia and based in Egypt and also in Lebanon. So a fascinating time growing up in the travel industry. I then followed my father. I think you get kerosene in your blood at some point in this industry. I followed into British Airways and then into Lufthansa, and 30 years of working in the travel industry. I have never seen the level of turbulence that we've experienced currently in the travel industry over the last 2 years. Negative turbulence in terms of depression and the turning off of the taps globally, obviously when the pandemic hit us full in the face. And that caused some significant challenges to the industry. First of all, people weren't traveling, obviously enough, to control the pandemic. But secondly, you had the reversal of all of the capacity that had been sold in the industry up to that point. And what I mean by that is that everybody who had booked a summer, a Christmas, an Easter holiday or a business trip, etc., was looking to get their money back as quickly as possible and release that capacity back into the market if it existed in the first place, because capacity was being taken away. That put an incredible amount of pressure on the industry as it tried to work out within all of the rules and regulations surrounding treating customers fairly, how to do that. And one of the key learnings many in the industry found out is that some of the payment practices simply aren't up to that sort of stress and pressure. And this fallback to a voucher system is still pain that the industry is paying off. So this will give you a voucher with no real mechanism behind the scenes as to how to handle that voucher beyond just calling up a call center and putting then incredible pressure on that as you want to rebook. All of that gave the industry a wake-up call that it's one thing managing a growth environment. It's another thing to manage a dramatic contraction of the industry. I'm pleased to say, however, that one area that managed to sustain that seismic contraction was credit cards. So credit cards, one of the first global payment networks that has grown on the back of travel, on the back of movement of people overseas, that infrastructure withstood that shock. So the reverse flow of money back to the consumer, back to the booker through an intermediary with the richness of data, but also the security and the maintenance of trust in the network was vital, I believe, to seeing us through that. Similarly, as we're now coming back out, and I always use the analogy of a bucket, what we saw during the pandemic was, if you imagine travel, the global travel appetite or the global travel annual spend is a bucket of water. And that bucket of water is not just the travel that's in that bucket is not just the travel that's happening tomorrow or next week. It's the travel that's happening next year. It's the Christmas holiday booked in Australia for 2023 as the family plans that. It's quite far out. But what happened is that we stopped filling the bucket up. but we also emptied it out entirely. So the bucket was completely empty. What's happening now is that bucket is filling up very, very fast. As people feel more comfortable, as governments step back from imposing restrictions, as airlines and cruise ships and hotels put more capacity into the market, the speed at which that bucket is filling up is, I've never seen it in my lifetime. And so the industry now, it's a much nicer problem to deal with than that which we dealt with when we turned the taps off, but it's a problem nonetheless. And again, I sound like a broken record. Credit cards and the prepaid virtual credit card model serves the industry very, very well in being able to allow for this rapid deployment of payment, this enforcement of trust, to enable organizations such as OTAs to expand their booking capabilities and their cash flow funding in order to sustain that growth. The growth won't last forever. At some point, the bucket becomes close to full again, but for the next few months, companies that have done their homework in understanding how to pay for travel and how to use the systems that have now really stood the test of time and withstood the storm of the pandemic will be the ones that are able to ride the recovery the fastest. And so my call to arms for the travel industry is very much, if you have not yet invested time and energy and expertise in understanding what is the best payment methods for your business to yield a return for your own business, but also to be shock proof, then now is definitely the time to do that, because we will see some instability remaining in the industry for the next 12 to 18 months. The good news is that the penetration of virtual credit cards is there, right? The discussion over what were one scheme acceptance versus another scheme acceptance is a discussion for yesterday. It's no longer particularly relevant. And virtual credit cards in the last, I say a decade, maybe 12 years, have now fully penetrated the travel industry. The challenges of yesteryear, when you'd go up to check-in and the agent wouldn't recognize a virtual credit card and wanted to see the back and front of a card, again, they're not so prevalent as they used to be, but I do remember those very, very vividly. So I wouldn't necessarily put the Middle East in a bracket of low credit card penetration, and I need to be specific there. What I'm talking about here, vis-a-vis the virtual credit card use case in travel, is a B2B proposition. I am talking about the intermediary, either the hotel bed bank or the online travel agency, to the end merchant, the airline, the hotel, the car hire. That's where the virtual credit cards adds the most value. The credit card usage of the consumer to that intermediary, the online travel agency or the hotel bed bank, that can be via multiple different mechanisms: bank transfer, debit card, credit card. But honestly spoken, from a parochial point of view, that's not our business. Our business is trying to facilitate the ease of money movement using the credit card mechanism and get all of those benefits, the two-way street, the opportunity to share some of the value in terms of the interchange, the guarantee, the trust, the acceptance, the data, the speed. All of those things are what our business is about trying to do, to make life easier for the intermediary, the online travel agency, to buy things as cheaply, as rapidly, as clearly as possible globally. And I don't think the Middle East in any way is behind the rest of the world. They may have been historically, but right now the penetration is such that those intermediaries in the Middle East are very, very savvy, very mature, very sophisticated, and have every right and ability to use what I believe still is bleeding edge technology. Now, there is new stuff coming in terms of crypto, but honestly spoken, they are tomorrow's solution. They're not fully mature, and certainly they're not the strategy, I believe, I would maintain, that is going to be the make or break as to whether you can successfully ride this current surge back to travel. There, it's the virtual credit card over bank transfer, over invoicing, over BSP, bank settlement plan. I believe that's where the credit card benefits of trust, universal acceptance, foreign exchange flexibility, low cost, and all those sort of benefits stand that solution apart from those more traditional and I would say slightly antiquated ways of paying. People are, when traveling overseas, moving to unfamiliar circumstances with an element of being away from home, so potentially a higher level of risk and uncertainty, and to go to an expert who understands that business, that industry, that destination, those concerns, and provides a service to make that feel more secure, simpler, more reliable. I think there's a significant value add for the individual. So I don't see any change really in the value that a travel agency has vis-a-vis I suppose the alternative is to go and shop around and do all the homework, phone up the hotel yourself, etc., etc. There will always be individuals who like doing that as part of the experience of booking a trip and booking a holiday, but largely, I think there still is a very valuable part of the value chain that a travel agency plays. And I think it's very important that we get past the early days of crypto, which is speculation on certain types of coins. Does the value go up? Does the value go down? That I'm not sure necessarily has a particular overriding positive or negative to the travel industry, and actually it's difficult to manage because of the high level of volatility. What's really interesting, and I think posing a lot of questions for the travel industry, is the future of other crypto coins that may be stable, may be linked to an intrinsic value, whether it's a currency or whether it's the price of a commodity, etc., etc. But what's really fascinating about crypto is the ability to include a vast population of the globe that is currently unbanked in that financial system. To get them out of barter, to get them out of just cash and keeping cash underneath a mattress at home, which is inherently costly and risky, and get them into some sort of digital internet form of payment, which is another way of attracting people into consuming travel products. And I think that is where this expansion to a whole new audience for travel, especially in the developing world, is very exciting. And enables the distribution of travel to be much more varied and much more flexible. However, it is new, and merchants and intermediaries need to understand the risk involved, the cost involved, in order to be able to plan, secure their businesses, and guarantee the services that they're buying on behalf of the end consumer. So the industry is working its way through. I'm not sure necessarily whether travel, over and above other industries such as food or commodities or healthcare or other industries, whether travel is any further forward. I do think perhaps the global reach of travel means that because it spans the developed world and the developing world, that it potentially has that opportunity to expose itself and understand crypto better. But at this point, it remains at the bleeding edge of forms of payment, right? And it is certainly not mainstream at this point in time in terms of travel payments. But cast your mind forward a decade, or even half a decade. And I'm sure we're going to start to see some interesting use cases come up as to how crypto can make it easier. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make the transfer of goods and services in a secure way easier for more people around the world. And I think crypto has a role to play in that. It simply is not yet fully formed. However, we at Nium are committed to being at that bleeding edge and understanding how it develops and make sure that we can support our customers, our existing customers and future prospects to capitalize that once clarity on exactly how the use case works out is upon us. Nium, in its acquisition of Exaris, is able to bring together this incredibly powerful and mature and global reach of the virtual credit card solution for travel agents, which I still think is the standard part solution for them. But we now couple it with digital pay in, pay out, global movement of money that doesn't necessarily have to go through the traditional SWIFT network. So we have payment corridors, and we're strongest in the Asia footprint, so India, Bangladesh, Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines. We can help organizations that need to pay or get paid cross-border with those solutions as well. So if there is a bilateral, common transfer of money between two parties, then Nium can support in that as well. So again, my call to arms, my call to action for the travel population is come and talk to us, or talk to other suppliers. We prefer you talk to us, and understand and educate yourself on how this fintech industry, this whole movement, can help your businesses reduce cost dramatically, improve speed, and take the cost of actually managing these payments out of your back office. The days where it used to take 3 days to pay someone and you had to have someone tracking it in your back office, they are yesterday. You should be able to see all of that on a dashboard with instant payments now at a dramatically lower cost than the banks will charge you. So there are dollars that you are leaving on the table as we're seeing this return to travel that the fintech industry can support you with. So come and have those conversations.